Welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of my trip to Greece, so make sure to watch part 1 if you haven't already. We pick up on the gorgeous island of Naxos. Here we stayed at Pension Sophie, a hotel with the absolute best atmosphere and sweetest owners. We loved our room and balcony here. It's about 6:30 and we're settled here in Naxos at our hotel. We're gonna do a couple of things in the town, probably just walk around and get dinner, but my throat does sound terrible. I think the windy Santorini weather got me congested and gave me a sore throat. But that's not gonna stop us from seeing the town. It was a short 10-minute walk from our hotel to the port area, and we knew we had to visit the iconic Portara of Naxos just as the sun was setting. Also known as the Temple of Apollo, this structure dates back to the 6th century BC. Here you get a great view of Naxos town and of course the best view of the sunset. We had dinner at a restaurant called Cozy and it was so good. It is our first full day in Naxos, and today we are going to be visiting around the island, including some local villages and some other sites. And my voice is getting better, so fingers crossed that by the end of today I will be fully recovered. Here in Naxos, we got super lucky because one of the hotel's owners actually offered to be our tour guide throughout our stay. So huge shout out to Theo, who truly made the next couple of days amazing. Our first stop today was the Temple of Demeter, where we checked out the museum and then made our way outside to the magnificent marble temple. The elevation of this area makes it a great viewing point. After the Temple of Demeter, we walked over to the oldest olive tree in Naxos, and possibly even the world. This tree could be over 5,000 years old. Then we headed to a gorgeous pottery studio where we got a really cool demonstration of how a traditional Greek jug is crafted. And then going back to the olive theme, we visited Ergostasio Olive Mill. This place has a rich history dating back to 1880, and though the machinery may have changed, the quality of the fresh olive oils sure hasn't. The olive oil and olive tasting was definitely my favorite part. We walked through this cute little town to our next stop, the Church of St. George Theosorites. This is a Byzantine church from the 11th century, making it one of the oldest churches on the island. We had lunch in the small nearby town, and then headed to the Church of Drosiani, the oldest Christian church in Naxos. Naxos is world-renowned for its pearly white marble, and the island has a lot of it. We stopped by a marble warehouse and also saw the humongous marble quarry. And then we walked through Melinis to see some of the famous statues. These statues are giant and made out of marble, but are unfinished or fragmented. We said goodbye to the rolling hills and mountainside as we made our way back to the coast to Agios Georgios Beach. This beach is so pretty and has a couple of really nice walking trails too. We had a great day exploring Naxos, and now we're gonna get some dinner and just walk around and relax for a bit. We explored some more sites in the town, including the old Venetian castle, and obviously we saw a bunch of cats as we strolled the streets. Good morning from Naxos. Today we are going to hike up Mount Zas, and then in the afternoon visit a couple more villages and hopefully some of the beaches. We are starting our hike up to Mount Zas. The weather on this day was perfect for a hike. There was a slight cool wind and it wasn't too sunny. We enjoyed the panoramic views along the way and even got to see a couple goats on the mountainside. At some points, the path up the mountain isn't really marked, you kind of just have to forge your way, but having a guide was really helpful in making sure we stayed on the right path. Look at how rocky it is. We have to climb up over there. And that up there is the top. The view was so cool at the top. You could see neighboring islands and the vast, vast sea. This place is steeped in Greek mythology, as the mountain also has a cave called the Cave of Zas, which was the childhood home of the Greek god Zeus. And we are back at the bottom. We started this hike at 9:40 and it's now 1:10. It was definitely a challenging and long hike, but so much fun and so worth it. After the hike, we headed over to Apiranthos. This is a picturesque village known for its marble-based architecture. Even the stairs are marble. We had lunch and then headed to the Aliko Beach Graffiti Hotel. This is an abandoned hotel that has become a site for some gorgeous street art and murals. And it was a little creepy inside, but the best murals are outside anyway. That beach below us is Aliko Beach. Even though this trip was in April and the waters were pretty cold, we still wanted to enjoy some time at the beach, and we did so at Plaka Beach. And then we made our way back to Naxos town to do some shopping and have some dinner. Here is the port area at night. It was such a lively vibe. That brings us to the next morning, when we actually said goodbye to Naxos and boarded a plane to our next stop in Greece, Athens. Athens is the capital and largest city in Greece, and we could immediately see how different it was from the Greek islands we had spent the last few days exploring. We stayed at Athens City View, and here's a room tour. But the best part of this accommodation was this outdoor rooftop area, where we got great views of the city and could even see the Parthenon. We made our first afternoon in Athens count, starting off with a delicious falafel for lunch. And the streets of Athens were absolutely bustling. Athens obviously has a lot of historical significance as the birthplace of democracy and a philosophical mecca, so we had to visit a couple museums. This is the Acropolis Museum. Here there are so many cool findings from the Athenian Acropolis site. One of the most famous parts of the museum are these caryatid statues. There are actually supposed to be 6, but one of them is held at the British Museum. Underneath the museum is an excavation site which has thousands of artifacts. We walked by the Odeon of Herodotus Atticus, also known as the Herodion, and this is a really cool theater. This day was actually International Monuments Day, meaning entry to many sites in Athens was free. We wanted to make the most of this, so we visited the Roman Agora, which was once a bustling marketplace and city center, and we also visited the ancient Agora. If you only have time for one or the other, I would definitely suggest the ancient Agora. It is much larger and was actually the center of Athenian democracy. From there we headed to the cable car station to catch a funicular to Mount Lycabettus. This is hands down the best panoramic view of the city, and you can really get an idea of how huge this city is, home to almost 30% of Greece's population. We chose to walk back down, and we were rewarded with some of the coolest views. It's our last day in Greece, and today we're spending the entire day in Athens, and of course that means we're at Acropolis. Acropolis is probably one of the most popular attractions in Athens, and for good reason. There are several prominent structures, including the Erechtheion, and possibly the most iconic, the Parthenon. Built in the 5th century BC, the Parthenon is symbolic of the Golden Age of Athens and is dedicated to Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare. As you can see, Acropolis started getting more and more crowded as the day went on. Apparently, over 17,000 people visit this site each day. We stopped by the Herodion, which we saw the outside of yesterday, and this architecture is distinctly Roman, as seen in the arched windows. This is the theater of Dionysus, where famous classical Greek plays were performed. So we're all done with Acropolis, and when we got here, it actually wasn't too crowded because we did get here pretty early, but by like 10 o'clock, it was so packed. I swear it's more people than the Eiffel Tower, and that, that's crowded. After Acropolis, we headed to the Panathinaik Stadium, where the first modern Olympic Games were held. This is also the only stadium in the world that is entirely made of marble. Right there you can see the iconic Olympic rings, and they even had an Olympic museum. Then we walked through the Athens National Garden, and we had lunch at one of the restaurants here. This is Syntagma Square, one of the most significant public squares in Greece, as it was where the first constitution of Greece was demanded. You can watch the daily changing of guards routine here. We headed to Monastiraki next, which has a great flea market for souvenirs. ended our final day in Athens and Greece at a Greek donut shop, and it was the sweetest end to this vacation. From Santorini to Naxos and finally Athens, we had the absolute best time in Greece. Thanks for watching.